Hey everyone, welcome to the 9 to 5 podcast. I'm Josh. This conversation is part one of what we're calling a case study for Elliot's house dilemma. Having conversations like this was the reason we started this podcast. Hopefully, they are helpful or at least somewhat entertaining for you, the audience. We wanted to also mention that we have links below for all the resources and things that we mentioned in this episode, and we also have affiliate or support links for some of our favorite money saving or FI related products that we use. If you have any feedback for us or suggestions for topics, please email either of us at 9to5pod@gmail.com. If you want to send a specific comment to either one of us, our emails are elliot@9to5pod.com or josh@9to5pod, and we'll leave links to those email addresses below as well. Last thing, if you like this kind of content, please give us a rating on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast player. Spotify keeps telling us that we should have more followers for the audience size we have. So if you're listening to us there, we'd appreciate it if you would click follow. And with that, I'll kick it over to our conversation. Hey, Elliot, what's up?
Not much, Josh. What's up with you?
Oh, not much. A couple weeks ago, we got together and talked about these two, struggles or questions that were rolling around in our heads about some money topics. And I guess we released a little bonus episode to kind of tease that out and try to hold each other accountable for getting back together and talking through these things. So, do you stand with your dilemma of whether or not to buy a bigger house, build a bigger house, or to add on to your current house?
Sure. So I will say that I'm not fully fleshed out in any of my ideas by no means in this conversation. Well, I have a conclusive answer of, yep, I've made my decision, right? So nobody in the audience try and stick a fork in me that way. I'm far from done. So I will say what I did do was Dawn and I have thought about this concept of either moving or doing an addition on our house for multiple years now. And so even during COVID times, we had gone so far as to get a contractor out to kind of bid something that essentially we had drawn up to say, hey, we want to do a master ensuite, blowout on like an addition on the backside of our house, what would it cost? And at the time, I think it was a 20 by 25-foot addition, was a master ensuite, so bedroom and bathroom. The bid that we got at the time was $200,000. Seemed pretty costly to us, given that our house was not much higher than that amount when we purchased it back in 2016. We bought ours for $255 in 2016. So the fact that it was virtually doubling the cost of our house for an additional 500 square feet, that didn't seem to sit quite well with us at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm thinking, where's the kitchen in this scenario? Like you said, we're probably a little bit removed from the real world of housing costs now, and things have increased so significantly. And I don't know what this cost per square footage is today, but 200K for 500 square feet sounds awfully high to me.
Yeah. Yes, it I'm glad I wasn't off base when I had to virtually pick my jaw off the floor when that was sent over the table. But to fast forward to where we're at now, is the thought generally was, okay, if we wanted to do an addition, whether it was that same 20 by 25 or even I've thought about going bigger. We live on a double lot, so we have lots of virtual space that theoretically we could use that makes an addition much more appetizing. We really like the area that we're in. We like the school districts. We like our neighbors. There's lots of pros in the, hey, location, 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 right? That's the one thing you can't change about your house without changing that address.
That's right.
And so with that said, okay, well, what would it cost if theoretically we just did a 300K addition because, quite frankly, if we were to go move in our same school district, that's really the confines that we have more or less put on ourselves. We're right about 1250 in square footage, not counting the basement that is mostly finished. And so it obviously doesn't count that square footage in the basement because it doesn't have means of egress. But we've thought, hey, we would want to really get up to that 2,000 square foot house if we were to make a significant change with that. So to find a 2,000 square foot house in our district that really we would want to go up to one more bedroom. We're in a 3-bed and with a 5-person family, trying to get the kids to all have their own bedroom if we so choose to go that direction. It's a tall ask in our neighborhood, and or not even just in our neighborhood, but in our district. Is, this area was built in the early 50s, and so there just weren't really the houses of that size and bedrooms in the area. And so you do have some demolition happening and new construction, but can you guess what the price tag of one of those new builds is costing?
I think you might have told me last time it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 800K.
Yeah,
Yeah.
800, 850 is about right. And so if that's the alternative to our approximately 250 is 600K to play with, obviously they're new construction versus now a 75-year-old house. That's one thing, but yeah, I mean there's a lot of play in there to go and do an addition. So that was a very long preamble to say, all right, we've got some play in the budget theoretically if we really want to explore this and say, hey, this is the house that we envision ourselves in for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that being said, I started to explore what kind of loan that even really is. Maybe you would know much better than me, being the real estate mogul that you are, Josh, but I struggled a little bit. So I know there's home equity loans, there's HELOCs, I know that you can get, of course, private loans. I know there's construction loans. So kind of doing that analysis of what even is really available to me as a current homeowner trying to do an addition was a bit of a bewildering task. So I went to my loan officer that I used when we purchased this house and we refinanced this house as well, and kind of tried to broach that question. She gave a little bit of guidance, but more or less in polite terms, I got ghosted because she kind of said, that's not me. I'm not, I'll help you if you want to go purchase a new house, a loan. She said, hey, this is somebody else in my, broader financial institution that could probably help you. But I really didn't hear much after that. So I did go out and do some research on HELOCs and home equity lines. And from what I could tell, it was really based off of loan to value. I think, in a lot of cases, a financial institution won't give you more than 90% of your loan to value rate. And so given the purchase cost of my house and the fact that it's not paid in full right now, that nowhere gets close to the amount that theoretically, if we were to do a large scale addition, theoretically that would cost. So in my mind, I got stuck and I kind of thought, hey, the only other alternative that I would really think of is a private loan, of which those rates are just going to be even higher than what you would get at a conventional loan.
Yeah. So I have some questions. Let's maybe start with going all the way back to the beginning of the kind of the quandary that you have is, should I add on to my current house or move, build and or buy a different house. So I guess
Or do
given,
nothing.
yeah, or do nothing. I guess, yeah, that's option C. So if you were to move and potentially sell your current home, do you know about how much equity you would have?
Oh, I would have to go and look.
Ballpark
Let's call it 140,000.
is your equity. Okay. And then the other question would be, so what I'm thinking about is, depending on which avenue you decide that you want to take, what's the trade-off cost? So it sounds like if you were to go build a new house in that 800 to 850K range, you would only have approximately 140,000 to put towards it. That's means you're going to finance
Well,
650K.
well, I would have theoretically, yeah, whatever the sale price is minus the balance on. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, hopefully, as far as I can tell, granted, the market is what the market is, but our house is valued significantly higher than where it was when we initially purchased it. So even at, let's call it 375 versus 255, at least there is a little bit more there, but
Mm-hmm.
still call it 250 or 300. Yeah, there's still a large gap in that 550,000
Sure.
deficit that you would have to fund.
And I think that would then take us into the next potential opportunities. I think, like you said, the only type of loan that I have any experience with outside of a traditional mortgage is a HELOC, home equity line of credit. I've done that several times. I currently have one out against my primary residence, but I haven't drawn from it. It's We have used it in the past to purchase real estate and then we pay it off. But like you said, it's whatever the equity is that's in your home, they'll let you take up to 80 or 90% of that, depending on the bank, depending on the institution.
Right.
And so
And
that's,
I'll interject for 1 second here is I do actually have a HELOC out on my loan. I've drawn on it maybe one time, paid something off and then immediately paid it back, similar to what you just kind of talked about. I use it. I know Mr. Running Mustache had an article out there back in the day talking about the lack of need for really an emergency fund and using a HELOC kind of in place of that. And so that's that's kind of how I've always used it is I don't need to be sitting on a mountain of cash. I'd rather have it in the market doing its thing. And if things were really bad, then I guess I would tap my HELOC.
well, hold your opinion whenever we get to my side of the struggle. Whenever we get to that section, don't chastise me too bad for the mountain of cash that I'm sitting on.
Absolutely not. To each their own.
So let's see. If you were to sell your home, you would get maybe 150 to 200K in equity that you would put towards the next home. So that's not a lot. You're going to be taking out a big loan. Interest rates are really high right now, but ultimately you guys want to stay in the school district. So if you were to move, you pretty much have to stick with your current location, which makes sense. And then if you were to do the addition, it sounds like you don't necessarily have enough based on the estimates that you've gotten so far for construction. You don't necessarily have enough equity to pull from within the home to then cover the cost of the construction. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, and that was my only question is the only avenue we use a construction loan is basically brand new construction. Like, is an addition considered qualifying event for a construction loan or not? Because that seems like that's the only way to really reasonably, from a financial point of view, handle this. Because if you do a large addition like that, like there's no way that you're like in my example where you have a smaller house you're never going to have enough equity in your house to really finance that. So unless you're just, like you said, sitting on a large stash of cash, I don't know how else you would do that.
So then that brings us to another, I guess, potential option, which would be to use equity in your home plus any potential money that's earmarked for the future for retirement, and then potentially extending your FI date.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I certainly could go raid my taxable account and probably get pretty, I mean, I could do it. If I wanted to drain my taxable account, yes, I could go do that.
That doesn't sound like an option.
No, it does not.
I bet there's some type of loan opportunity out there, and maybe someone can chime in if we have a listener that might be more experienced with this. I personally don't have any experience, but I do have some friends kind of in the industry, so to speak, that I could reach out to and just see if anybody has any other thoughts, or maybe could ask your friend ChatGPT or Google if there's.
That's right. Well, very good. I appreciate all of it, Josh. I mean, quite honestly, the answer that I imagine we will land on is we will do nothing. We are happy in our home. I mean, sure, like of course there can always be things that might be better, but it's totally fit for purpose for us.
And maybe just a reminder to the audience. I think you were talking about whenever we had this discussion. So your kids are, remind me if I get it wrong. They're 4 and 6, right? Or is it 5 and 7
They have
now?
now turned 7, 5, and 5.
7, 5, and
So
5.
yes.
So the boys that are twins and currently sharing a room, that's ultimately what your goal is, right? Is to give the 3 kids their own individual rooms. And I mean, potentially, just from my perspective, I told the story last time we talked, or in one of our episodes, how I had, at one point, we had our 3 boys all sharing one bedroom, and that was crowded. It's actually the office that I'm in right now, which is like literally 10 by 10 or 10 by 12. And that was tight. It was really tight, but we finished our basement, and it's a walkout with the egress and all of that sort of thing. Newer home, and we put our bedroom down there, bathroom down there, and then we were able to spread the boys up. We still had 2 boys in one room. They were in our former upstairs master bedroom, and so they had a lot more space because it was like 12 by 15 or whatever it is, and then there's a bathroom so connected to that bedroom.
Yeah. And that's certainly an option here as well. Is the room that I'm actually seated in right now, I use as my home office. It's it is certainly had been used as a bedroom. It's in the basement. So we probably wouldn't put anyone down here right now at the ages that they are, but certainly as they get older, that is could be a potential. And, you know, per maybe the easiest way is you could turn the window that's over to my right here into a full egress, and then yeah, I mean you get there.
And then they're able to come and go as they please when they're like 16, 17 years
that's
old.
that's not music to my ears, Josh.
You're gonna have little like alarms and cameras and things out
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I mean, my boys shared a room. The 2 younger ones shared a room for, gosh, I don't know, 16 years, 15 years, something like that. And I mean, it worked. We made it work.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, these are certainly true first world problems that I'm talking about here. Is my kids could share a bedroom from the time that they leave the house, and sure, we would make it work. That's certainly not a problem here. I think it is just, of course, anybody that kind of follows this path, and if we're really talking about retiring in our, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, you're well ahead of the curve. And so, you know, to go harken back to one of our earlier episodes of talking about cheap versus frugal, you know, like I don't want to. make a choice that is cheap just because, hey, like, I want to be done with work sooner or whatever. I want to make a decision that's right for our family. So,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think it's kind of the tolerance of the trade-offs that you have to face. So regardless if it's cheap versus frugal, it's definitely not cheap. And I would say that if we haven't talked about this too much on the show, but if your timeline is the next year and a half and your boys are 5, your daughter's 7, if they're going to have more dad available within the next year and a half to 2 years, and their trade-off would be to not have dad available for maybe 5 years or 3 years beyond that, to the age that they're approaching that age frame where they don't necessarily need to spend or want to spend that much time with dad. Just from personal experience, they might appreciate that you made that trade-off of not needing to work longer so that you could spend more time with them. And that just meant that for the boys, they may have had to share a room for a little bit longer, or until they go off to college or whatever this story turns out to be.
that's right. I mean, you've shattered my entire world telling me that my children aren't going to want to spend every waking moment with me the coming years, Josh. So, thanks for that.
They come back around though, Elliot.
Yeah,
You have a long way to go.
that's right.